What is happening, Magnus sites? Neurotic, you're next, pal. Yeah. Woo! Let's see what the drinker thought of that trailer. Get over and follow the critical drinker. Tell him that Tyrone Magnus sent you. Oh boy.
If you asked me to come up with a diplomatic way of describing DC on film lately, I'd say it's a cluster. It's been somewhat mismanaged. A wannabe rival to the MCU that arrived late to the party and tried to catch up by fast-tracking half a decade's worth of world building, plot and character development into a single movie, and as anyone who's arrived late to a house party and tried to play catch-up can tell you, that's never a good idea. Only to spend the next 10 years lurching drunkenly from disastrous failure to inexplicable success and back again, plagued by a panicking and interfering studio that couldn't seem to make up its mind what it wanted, and a revolving door of executives.
All because they were trying to catch Marvel. That is such a bad decision. You're Warner Brothers. You've made some of the greatest movies in history. Run your own race.
Who each stuck around just long enough to undo the work of their predecessors before getting fired. But even Warner Brothers can only tolerate so much failure, and by 2022 it was obvious that something had to change. Someone with an actual creative vision had to be put in charge of DC on film, and they had to be given the time, money and power to get the franchise back on track. Well, that man was James Gunn, and his first big test was Creature Commandos.
Which is good so far.
Superman. I'm not kidding when I say that pretty much everything is riding on this movie. Not just James Gunn's career or DC on film, I mean the entire superhero genre. The past few years have given us an almost endless stream of embarrassing failures from every major studio. Never give up hope though, Sony. Deadpool and Wolverine was a big hit, sure, but one successful movie can't change the fact that superhero movies have been on a downturn ever since Avengers Endgame.
Yep, because that's when they really started to go hard with the woke. And we see what wokeness has done to the entire economy. It has started to rot it away and destroy it.
Superman needs to succeed, which means that all eyes were on the first teaser trailer when it came out yesterday. So what's it actually like? Does it inspire confidence in a movie that's going to save DC and put the entire superhero genre back on track? Or is it an embarrassing and ridiculous spectacle of pure cringe? Well, it opens on a somber note with Superman lying injured and bleeding in the snow. And if ever there was a perfect metaphor for the public perception of the character after being...
They look like Ugg boots right there. And everybody's saying he got Yamcha'd.
In Zack Snyder to within an inch of his life, it's this. But okay, sure.
Wait, what?
Zack Snyder. If ever there was a perfect metaphor for the public perception of the character after being Zack Snyder to within an inch of his life, it's this. But okay, sure, it establishes a sense of urgency and drama, because really, if someone or something can beat the shit out of Superman, it must be a pretty major threat. I have to say though, I'm not exactly loving the suit. It looks cheap and padded, and I know it's
Thank you, drinker. I know I wasn't the only one that thought so. Oh, by the way, yeah, part of the attacks that I've been getting is, "You're the only one that thinks like this." Meanwhile, there are thousands of comments agreeing with me in my videos that the suit is actually absolutely horrible. And just because other YouTubers out there are shilling or giving their truthful opinions and they like it, that's them. That's not me. I'm not a sheeple. I don't run with the pack just to belong. I give my own truthful statements. If I like something, I'll tell you I like it. If I don't, I don't.
Fair to compare him to Henry Cavill, but David Corenswet does seem like a bit of a downgrade.
Say that again?
It's unfair to compare, though. I'm not exactly loving the suit. It looks cheap and padded, and I know it's unfair to compare him to...
No, it's not, sir. It's absolutely fair. They're both big budget Superman films. That suit's great. The other suit sucks.
Henry Cavill, but David Corenswet does seem like a bit of a downgrade in the physicality department. You get to see little vignettes of him as Clark Kent.
That's a downgrade as Clark Kent, too. Remember, the original Clark Kent was a mild-mannered reporter. Wasn't a bumbling, nerdy fool, okay? That became popular because of Christopher Reeve's representation of him, which I loved. However, this looks like a caricature, a parody of the... It's like an updated bumbling fool. It just looks stupid. Henry Cavill played Clark pretty much perfectly in Batman v Superman, particularly the Ultimate version. If you watch the theatrical version, it's more of a Batman movie. You watch the Ultimate version. That's more of a Superman movie. And he plays well. He's not a bumbling fool. He's a mild-mannered reporter.
Into the Daily Planet, and apart from the awful Gen Z bird's nest hairstyle, it all looks pretty good. We get to see Lois Lane.
And it looks like it's wet there. Before it looked fluffier when he was walking through the people.
Jonathan Kent, and it's a neat whistle-stop tour of all the things and people that are important to him. I'm not sure about the electric guitar rendition of the John Williams score, though.
Oh, by the way, I'm not the only one that got a copyright claim for the music. That's why it's muted, for those of you that can't figure that out. I put it in the subtitles. I put it in the title of the video. Use subtitles. I put it in the description. Please use subtitles. And in the subtitles, I tell you why I'm using subtitles. And people are like, hey, why is this no sound? Hey, what happened? Hey, what happened? Huh? To get the copyright claim off, you have to remove the music. And that's why it's muted during most of the parts of the trailer. And when it got claimed, it also got blocked to certain parts of the United States and other countries. Angry Joe's complaining about it right now on Twitter and asked James Gunn to get in contact with some people and tell them to remove the copyright claims. All right? Scarlo got claimed. No, he's playing the music.
James Gunn really loves his 80s music, but damn, man, turning an iconic score like that into a sad guitar solo is like drawing a cock on the Mona Lisa. Yeah, you can do it in theory, but
I have to, now I have to edit the music out so that, those, so they don't come by and claim it for 1 second of music, and they do stuff like that.
The question you have to ask yourself is, should you? But just when you thought things were getting a bit too somber and serious and not James Gunny enough, the dog shows up. Oh, dog. No, I like
Yo! The only reactions that I saw to this is Snarky J's, and I saw Angry Joe's. Snarky J's made me laugh so hard because you remember my reaction. He whistles and I'm like, here comes crypto. Here comes the cloud of snow. I'm like, I liked it. As hokey, corny, cutesy as it was, I liked it. Snarky J's watching it and she's like, he whistles. She's like, it's not the dog. I think she liked the trailer less than I did, but she's entitled to her opinion, and I thought it was hilarious.
Dogs as much as the next guy.
I have to do it myself.
But I'll be honest here, I'm not sure that I want to watch a super-powered one dragging Superman through the snow by his cape. It rather ruins the verisimilitude for me, don't you know? And yeah, I know this is supposed to be crypto from the comics, but it was a goofy idea even then, and it looks even worse on film, which is probably why no other big-screen version of Superman has ever used it.
I couldn't even see it in the Christopher Reeves one. And as a matter of fact, for all of you that always use the comics to defend everything, just remember, in context, but everything in the comics, just because it was done in the comics, does not mean it should be done in TV, video games, movies, or any other media. Doesn't mean it was a good idea then. It doesn't matter. So stop with that. It was in the comics!
I've got to admit, though, the anarchist in me would love to see Zack Snyder's take on it.
Yeah, me too. I saw this picture that they put. I just reshared it on Twitter. I loved it. I was like, whether they're making fun of Zack or not, I loved it. I said, that's right. Zack's crypto would have been the right breed on steroids and would have showed up with a Tommy gun, mowing anybody down that had a problem with soups. I would have loved to see that. Someone needs to do an AI version.
Of the teaser, Lex Luthor looks decent even if he's a bit on the young side. Hawk Girl, Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho are all there, and fuck me, that's a lot of characters to work in, but I'll come back to that one shortly. I'm not entirely sure why there's a kaiju in a Superman film, but okay, fine. And lastly, there's plenty of focus on the romance between Superman and Lois, which is nice to see in a modern Hollywood movie where functional...
Like, that's gotta be a dream. Why would he be letting devastation happen, potentially hundreds, thousands of people be killed in the background while he's kissing her? Doesn't make any sense.
Heterosexual relationships are rarer than female apologies.
Yep.
Opinion, was it an embarrassing disaster or a creative triumph? Well, it's neither of those things, really. What it is, for the most part, is safe. A cautious kind of trailer.
Tom always had a great look at Superman, man.
Doesn't try anything particularly crazy
Good
or
jaw.
controversial, and seems almost desperately eager to please, from a studio that's clearly nervous about this film. James Gunn's usual confidence and artistic flair is kind of lacking here, and I can't quite decide if that's a good or a bad thing in this case. See, I've always had reservations about...
Someone was asking me about, well, what about Nick Cage's Superman outfit? So that should be buried.
Gunn doing a Superman film. Reservation, the first is that I don't think his quirky, snarky, subversive sense of humour is all that compatible with a character like this. Don't get me wrong, he's good at what he does, but what he does falls within a very specific niche that includes Guardians of the Galaxy and...
That's it.
His irreverent sense of humour and a clear preference for angsty, morally ambiguous anti-heroes works just fine for the Guardians movies, but Superman is a very different beast. He's a throwback to a more innocent, idealistic and earnestly honest kind of superhero. A man who proudly stands for truth, justice and the American way, and doesn't do it under a dozen layers of postmodernist, subversive, deconstructed irony. And I could be wrong, but I feel like such a straight-up interpretation of the character is like the antithesis of everything that Gunn stands for as a creator. Reservation the second is that Gunn clearly has a strong preference for team-up movies with big ensemble casts of likeable misfits having to learn to put aside their differences and work together. That basic formula has been at the core of Suicide Squad, all three Guardians movies, Peacemaker and Creature Commandos, and that's just swell. But here's the thing, I don't want that in a fucking Superman movie. I don't want to watch Superman bickering with a bunch of assholes, trading quips and insults and having to slowly win them over. I want to see him being a hero and standing on his own 2 feet, because this is supposed to be his movie, not some launch pad for half a dozen spin-off characters. But now that I've seen the trailer, I think one of those reservations has been put to bed, while the other's pretty much been confirmed. Crypto aside, the overall tone actually looks pretty earnest and straight up, and I get the impression that Gunn's actually taking this thing seriously. Say what you want about the guy, but he understands comic books, so I'd imagine he very much understands what makes Superman work as a character.
Hopefully.
On the other hand, the glut of supporting characters tells me
Because someone's a great cook doesn't mean they can cook everything.
he's probably going to run straight back to his team of misfits comfort zone, which feels like a big misstep here. I don't want every James Gunn movie to be just another Guardians clone, trying to impose the same formula on characters and worlds where it's not needed or wanted. Ultimately though, a lot of this is still guesswork at this point. It's only a teaser at the end of the day. A lot of things can change between now and July, and the film itself might still end up being the best superhero flick in years. As a teaser designed to get us pumped up for it though, I'm not convinced this one quite hits the mark. It definitely wasn't a failure, but I suspect that whether you love or hate James Gunn's work, you're probably going to find something in it to back up your position. As for me, I'm going to try and keep an open mind on this one and just hope that Gunn can deliver, because really a lot depends on it. Anyway, that's all I've got for
No
today.
Negan.
Go away now.
Get on over and follow the man. All right, drinker, right there with you, buddy. 10 million subscribers. Woo!